I was going to take this a step further. What to do with this information, another tool called the 5-column analysis. And what that is the 5-column analysis is you make a list of everybody. This could be a school board, it could be the state Congress, it could be our federal Congress, it could be it could be a sewer authority board, whatever it is. I mean, your list is going to be a lot shorter on the school board than it is on our state legislature, which is 203 in the House and 50 in the Senate. A school board of 9. So Bill's going to pass out. I prepared one of these. I can give it to you in digital format if you'd like it, so that you don't have to sit there and type in 250 names by yourself, start from scratch. But what the 5-column analysis does is it gives you targets who to go after. And so say you have your issue, your paycheck protection issue, or whatever it could be, paycheck protection. You're going to have everybody's name who can vote on that in the Senate and the House. And then you're going to have 5 columns. You're going to have a double plus column, a single plus column, a zero column, a single minus column, and a double minus column. And you're going to do to the best of your ability and the information that you can gather on this, namely by probably going to roll call votes if you can get them. That's why it's so important to force votes on things so we know who our targets need to be. But you're going to rate everyone that can vote on that issue to the best of your ability. A double plus is a champion for your bill. There's somebody who lose their election fighting for your cause. Okay? They don't need any incentive to do the right thing on your liberty issue for that bill. A single plus is somebody who's generally supportive, but they might, if they get negative pressure, might do the wrong thing. They're those people who surprise you out of nowhere and vote in the wrong direction. It's probably because someone on the other side of the aisle was hammering them and made them do the wrong thing. So those are what a single plus is. A zero is on this particular issue, a pure political beast. They will move in the path of least resistance. Whatever they got to do to get you reelected, that's where they want to be. In fact, they probably don't want to vote on your issue. They probably don't want a roll call vote. They don't want your issue to exist. That's a zero. A single minus is someone who is generally opposed to your bill or your situation. That their first inclination is always to vote against you. They will, under certain pressure, like the single plus, if they get pressure where they value getting reelected or some other reward more than opposing your bill, they will go and they will vote for your bill. So a double minus is an ideologue like Obama who doesn't compromise on anything. For your position. So there's somebody who is in the opposite direction, will jump on the grenade and lose election before they vote for your bill. You're never going to get them to vote for your bill. Okay, so now you have to figure out, now that you have all of your list populated with entries, you'll see, I'll show you one of mine. We have it about 70% filled out, and I'll show you that that's enough for you to get going. Ideally, you want to get it all the way filled out. For certain reasons, we didn't have enough information. But who do you want to go after? The double pluses are not somebody you want to go after. They are already on your side. The only reason you would spend time, talent, or resources on a double pluses district is if they're taking fire for you. You don't want to let them hang out to dry. That's the only thing. So you'll go and get on the ground, put boots on the ground, and go out there and help them if they're getting creamed somehow by the bad guys. So a single plus, that's somebody who may do the right thing but might not if they're not under your supervision. So they are a good target. Now, when I say it, what do you want to do when you're targeting them? They're generally supportive of your bill. They may have even voted for it. Maybe it was a power vote for them. Who knows? But when you go after them, you just want to solidify their position. So your goal in picking your targets is to move the targets from the negative side towards the plus side. So hopefully when you're done with your efforts, that's what you're doing. So that by the time the vote comes up, it passes and you win. So, but the single plus though, you want to get those guys first. You got to go after the single pluses because they are going to be targeted by the enemies of liberty. So you've got to get them on the record somehow at a town hall, anything you can do, get them on the record saying, yes, I support your bill. And that means you've got to go in there and canvass their neighborhood, tell them, hey, we don't know if tell his neighbors we don't really know if he's for it. Make him say that he's for it. That's what you want to do with that. A 0 is a great target. And I don't know if a lot of you guys know we're fighting the SB 76 battle. That was John Wozniak before we canvassed his district. We moved him to a 0 to a plus by hammering him for 4 weeks in a row. Now they're going to take more effort because they're a political beast on this issue. And you have to understand that your 5 column, I forgot to mention this earlier, your 5 column is different for every fight. If you have paycheck protection, your 5 column is different than you have an anti-abortion 5 column or a gun rights 5 column or whatever. It's different for each one. So your target map is different for each issue. But this is the tool that lets you figure out who to go for. But the 0 is a great target as well. So the pluses and the 0s are your prime targets that you want to go after. The 0 is somebody who, when you poke them, they will move like a worm. In the direction. So you got to poke them in the right direction and make them move. Now they might, if they don't think you're serious, they won't do anything. They'll just sit and wait. So you've got to make them know that you're serious. When you hit them, you just keep hitting them. Keep poking them until they move. Keep poking them until they move. Don't drop away. Dean can tell you I wasn't there every weekend, but when we were out there, Wozniak was in his car. He was patrolling the neighborhood. Dean would wave to him and he'd duck down, stuff like that. So he didn't know. He wanted to know what we were up to, but we made the appearance that we were there all over the place, and he couldn't get away from us. So he thought we were everywhere, that we were serious, and then he took us seriously. So that's what happened there. Now, a single minus, you can, like I said before, you can get them to vote for you, but they are going to require a lot more effort. Okay? They're going to have to betray their friends to vote for you. They're going to have to know that if they don't do what you want them to, they're going to lose. Okay, so, they can be targeted. The problem is you have better targets. You have easier, lower hanging fruit on the pluses and the 0s. So when you are weighing there, are you going to spend time, talent, and treasure? You have to weigh, okay, I could get him to do it, but you might spend 4 times as much time canvassing his neighborhood before he takes you seriously as a 0 or a plus. So that's why you're going after that. Now, a double minus, there's no point. If your goal is to get your bill through, and you know they're never going to vote for you no matter what you do, you don't go after them. Now, do you never go after a double minus? I say no. There's a situation where you do go after them. You want to get rid of them. If your goal is unachievable, if you do the 5 column and you tally up your votes all at the bottom and you lose, unless you get rid of double minuses, then you're going to have to reassess your goal and make it a longer term goal. Okay? So you make it a longer term goal, you're not going to get it done this time. So what do? You've got to set up the environment so you can get it done next time. Then you can target those double minuses. You got to get rid of them.
Turzai, an example of that?
Turzai on On the issue of what?
76.
On 76, Turzai, I believe, I'll bring up, what we have is our current up-to-date 5-column analysis. I'll show you what this looks like here. And we'll go down to Turzai. Okay, so here's what, yours is blank and it doesn't have the colors. I'll explain the colors in a minute. So the first page is the Senate. Turzai is in the House. I have it set up alphabetical. Now we have Turzai as a single minus. So what we think about him is that because he's in leadership, things like that, that we probably could, if it came, he doesn't want to see it come up for a vote. I think that if we made it the environment in his district where he's elected, if we turned the environment so that if he voted against it, he would lose election, we think that he would probably vote in favor of it if it came down to it. I mean, he's in the leadership, so he's got other aspirations than just, you know.
But he's been hostile with this too.
Right. So yeah, so we think we probably could get him to vote for 76 if we had to, but you can see by the list that there's plenty of other targets that are much lower hanging fruit for us. So that's where you want to go with all this stuff. First you figure out your fight with your Red Fox board. Then once you figure out what fight you're going to be in, you get your 5-column done, and that's how you get your targets. And now I'm going to show you something that we came up with. This wasn't actually part of the faculty class. This was basically a war map for the state of PA on SB 76. So we know where we're going to have the biggest bang for our buck, and I can give you examples that it panned out perfectly according to that. And anybody can get this. I don't know if anybody here uses Google Earth. Does anybody use Google Earth at all?
Yeah.
I know Google is a big privacy issue, but for this I didn't have any other options. If there was another one, I could take it. But anyway, you can use Google Earth. You can download it, and if you go to the PA State website, you can get the shapes of the legislative districts. And what I did was color-coded double pluses, the single pluses. Now you don't have to do this. I'm just showing you. This helps us. It just helps us because you can see it. I color-coded this double pluses, the single pluses, the zeros, the single minuses, and the double minuses. And you can do this all in Google Earth. It's not that hard. If anybody's interested and wants to do this, please contact me and I'll walk you through it. So what we did was made the double pluses were white. Now everybody knows the Senate districts and the House districts overlap. So I just want to step back here and say, when we were picking targets, we're saying, okay, how are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck for SB 76? Okay, if we can get, do we want to go into a district where we have a double minus and a single plus? Well, we don't want to get the double minus, but we want to get the single plus. But why would we go there when we can go to a district that's 2 zeros? We got a Senate 0 and an overlap with the House 0. You're all of a sudden now you're getting much more bang for your buck than wasting time on a House guy that's never going to vote for you. You know, I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying these are general. You have to just take all this in when you make your decision about how you're going to spend your time, treasure, and talent. So in any case, we color coded them. The zeros were red. The single pluses were yellow. The double pluses were white. The single minus was gray, and the double minus was black. The green that you see is where I don't have enough info to decide where exactly that person fell. But they are probably a single minus or a double minus. So, in any case, I'll just go through some quick examples. Just this morning, as we speak, it might still be going on. And last weekend we went to Columbia and Lancaster County to go canvass. The people there have really high tax rates for school property taxes, and they have two what are probably pluses: Ryan Allman in the Senate and David Pickernell. And I'll just zoom in there for Columbia on the map, and that's this area right here. We're supposed to get some aerial, but I guess it's not coming through. Anyway, yeah, so basically that was a good spot to hit. It was orange. The orange and the red and the yellow are good targets. The black are not good targets. Like, so for example, we canvassed in Pat Vance's district in Mechanicsburg. I don't know why the aerial imagery isn't popping up, but it normally does. You see roads and things like that. But anyway, that was in this district. We didn't get really good, you know, we got some good response from the residents and stuff, but we could probably make an impact on her, but it was going to take a lot more work, a lot more days of canvassing. So that was one. Out here in Johnstown, now this is now yellow, was orange. This is Johnstown where Wozniak was. That was a good target. We had some other targets that were not so great. Tested them out. We went down to Unionville to go after Ross. And this is a really bad spot to canvass according to the thing, and it panned out that way too. Generally, you know, the person is opposing your bill for one reason or another. Their voters probably are already in that direction against it. So when we went down to Ross, we got a terrible response. I mean, getting a signature was like pulling teeth. It was really tough, and you know, where we're normally getting like 20 or 30 signatures, I think I got 3, something like that. It was a bad place, and that shows it.
Like, what were some of those arguments? Like, why wouldn't they sign?
They just didn't want to. I mean, the whole personalities of the people, they just weren't. They were skeptical of you. They didn't want to put their name on a paper. And a lot of them just didn't even want to deal with you or talk to you. They were busy. They were just doing stuff. It was a lot more affluent down there.
So they don't like
Pardon me?
So they don't like tagging.
They didn't have a problem. No, they didn't have a problem with it. So, you know, it's not that there was no value in trying that out. I mean, we learned from it, and also we used that effort to you know, help some other groups get things going and just you know, pick some stuff up. So there was other reasons that we did that. We knew it was probably not a good place to do it, but we had other reasons. But anyway, I just wanted to show you as an example of when you're picking your targets, how this is a very useful tool. Now you don't need to go to, like I said, you don't need to go to the extent of this, creating an entire map or whatever, but you know, just the 5 column is enough for you if you're you know, savvy enough to get them overlap and you can get 2 targets to line up. That's good enough. That's, you know, just go with that. But so. Yeah, so,
Ray, can I ask something?
yeah, go ahead, Dean.
If we have a bill, say Darrell Metcalf's bill gets into a committee, do we know if it's in committee yet?
It's not in committee yet.
357, then I'm sure you would suggest the same thing, to perform the 5-column analysis on that committee. Because you're not targeting the whole house at that point. You're simply targeting that committee, like we did with John Wozniak. We knew that bill was stuck in the finance committee, and we narrowed it down to 3 people. And in the end, John Wozniak was our best target, and we proved it because we swung his vote. But you can do the same thing as soon as that bill hits any committee and analyze that specific committee.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the fun part, he's waiting to introduce it, HB 357, Right Bear Arms Protection Act, probably one of the most strongest pro-gun reform bills in the country, puts the federal government on notice, But anyway, without delving too much into it, we're just, our team is just excited for it to go into committee once it gets introduced. Hopefully that's within the next few weeks, and not just Citizens for Liberty is looking to do this, we're looking to make this a statewide coalition for this specific bill, who's ever trying to get on board. And we're going to cause them a lot of political pain once it goes into committee, so we're looking forward to that. And then this model, Indeed's done it, so it really teaches everybody how to really be effective in politics.
Another interesting point there, when you have a bill going into committee, that's, we're all working on 76 now. But, some of these issues are too big to take them all on. However, if you're only dealing with a committee on a bill like 357 and you're working on 76, you might be able to take a little bit of your time and say, hey, we only got to hit one or two of these guys in this committee. And then maybe look at your 76 demographic too. You might be able to pick up 2 hits in one shot when you're going to a neighborhood. Since you're only in the beginning stages of 357.
Right, and keep it in mind, in doing fights, if you need to stop a bill, targeting a committee member is probably a really good way to do it. Yeah.
I'd like to mention that in all dealings with politicians or anybody in power, at all times, you use both the carrot and the stick. They have to be warned about what the consequence is and promise what the consequence is if they go with what you're promoting. That's even for allies.
Follow through.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
On that, I was in Senator Fulmer's office a few years back, and one of his staff people got a phone call. And I was just there because I had become friends with this staff person. I didn't have anything special on my mind that day. Twice on that phone call, he said something that I will never forget to the person on the other end. He said, "No, you don't understand. Most of the people in here have a pathological need to be loved." Goes to what Dan just said. When you understand that, you know how to deal with it.
And here's the thing that this goes back to, I wanted to say that you're limited in your time, talent, and resources, okay? You can't get in every fight now. In our opinion, we want to use our limited resources to cause discomfort for them making bad decisions. When you give them praise or let them know they're doing the right thing or whatever, you're using up time that you could be using to go after a bad guy who's doing something bad. So the way we see it is, yeah, sometimes you might want to do that, but just keep in mind that when you're doing that, you're not doing something else. Oh, their reward should be to be left alone. They don't hear you or see you.
That's
their reward. Okay? If they see you, they're in the target. That's how it should be. Okay? If you have the extra time, talent, and resources to hand out rewards, go for it. If you really want to do
The
that.
only reward they need is a word of praise. It's cheap, it's easy,
Yeah.
it takes no time at all.
Yep. But the thing is that, if you give them something in writing, that'll be on their website 25 years from now.
Make it issue specific.
So just be careful, and you know how they can change over time. So it's not really, it can hurt the credibility of your group to give praise to a politician. It's just dangerous. So just think about it.
That also makes these cover votes work in their mind.
Yeah, the cover votes, they'll vote for something because they know they need it to get it'll help them get reelected, even though they don't get it supported.
Example of that, real quick. When we were down with Turzai, there was a representative there who was actually voted for 76 on the floor. He also voted for 1189. But he said to me, he was being he wasn't happy about us being there. Of course, he does already in the commentator about that. But he said to me, well, why aren't you guys here thanking us? We voted for 76 down here. I said, is the bill passed? Okay, then when it's done, I'll thank you. But it's not done yet. Your job isn't done. These guys need to know that they need to do more than just put up a show vote for a bill that they knew was going nowhere anyway at the time. They need to start rallying their folk from within. They need to put more effort into our cause. That's what we want to drive them to. And if we're constantly saying, oh, thanks for voting for our bill, too bad it didn't pass. We got to get away from that stuff.
Yeah, let me just step back real quick, because I mentioned it, but then I forgot to bring it up. On the 5 column, you know, if you're savvy with Excel, this is in Excel, you can make this as complicated as you want. Whatever analysis you can come up with that helps you, go for it. What I did, this was something real simple for SB 76. We knew we had to go through appropriations, we knew we had to go through finance, and I color-coded each legislator. If they were in the finance committee, they were yellow, orange appropriations, red was both. So guess who the best was to go after? Red. Who was in both? I mean, it's all about, you know, the biggest bang for your buck on who you're going after. So we go back up to the Senate. Just wanted to point out to you, the red guys are in both. And right there, John Wozniak. So that pretty much wraps it up for me. I don't have much else to say about it, but we can keep doing questions.
So you moved Wozniak from a 0 to a plus.
Yep. Yeah. So after that happened, he was on the fence. You know, he didn't want it to come up for a vote. In the finance committee, he was a sponsor of the bill. What else, Dean? He was a sponsor.
Well, first he was opposed, then he became a co-sponsor, and then as soon as it looked like there was a majority sponsorship in the finance committee, when Blake came on board, then he dropped his support. So then we also framed the issue as John Wozniak being the flip-flopper, and his constituents agreed.
That was a good example of him being a co-sponsor, just to make it look like but he really was not in favor of the bill, but he co-sponsored it to make his constituents think it was.
And $30,000 from the teachers union probably had something to do with it.
And keep in mind, if you ever, hopefully nobody ever got arrested, but if you do, they read you your rights. They say anything you say can and will be used against you. So whatever these guys say, remember it and use it against them. Because what did John Stafford say? Property taxes aren't a problem out here. So every door we knocked on, Dane was selling them. Yeah, John said property taxes aren't a problem, and they were just outraged by that. Yeah. So when you're going around and having interactions with these people, just remember that. Whatever they say, use it against them.
So would you advocate carrying a video camera with you? Please. You have phones.
Yes.
I just want to add a comment that's related but not directly. When you guys are out there and you're dealing with these politicians, you know, we as the commentator offer you an opportunity for columns, but we also take letters to the editor. They can be very short, and if you get a great quote from a politician, it might embarrass that politician. Please send it to us. Because now, not only do we have a quarterly paper, but we have an electronic paper, an e-paper that's up every day. So we can update it every day. So now, you know, not only 13,000 people see the written version, but who knows how many thousands of hits. We know we're getting thousands of hits on the e-paper today. So please do keep that in mind.
Thank you.
I was going to say exactly like you were saying, depending on what demographic, socioeconomic that you go at. We have friends, our area's lucky, we're pretty fortunate. They'll say, you know, the amount of effort I have to put in to save $100 or $200, $300 on my school taxes, it's not worth it. So, you know, it's amazing to hear that. It's stunning. It's stunning. But there's the thought process.
Yeah. Right.
So when you go to that black area, it's affluent.
Yeah, and not all of the black area. It's more. The color coding is more of an initial reflection of the actual politician, but there is an underlying demographic of why they might be that way that you got to pay attention to. So, because you could get, I mean, you might get somebody in a prime district where people are hurting a lot, and they might not have known that they just voted for somebody in there who doesn't want to eliminate the property taxes or is against them on gun issues or whatever. So, I mean, it's just something else to keep in mind. But yeah, the color mostly is a reflection of that politician, their position in relation to the bill. So, yes.
Did yes, I really like these two methodologies. I think it just makes a lot of sense. It makes it easy to focus efforts and so forth. Just a few things that were said. I hear this mentioned a lot about forcing votes so we know where people stand. The problem with that is this. In the Pennsylvania legislature, once something is put up for a vote, if it fails, there's a very limited period of time and a very, sometimes usually difficult process to have it earmarked for reconsideration. If that is not done and that very short time period expires, that bill cannot be voted again for the remainder of that session. So that is why, like, we want to see these people do these votes. But if the leadership knows the votes aren't there, a lot of times they won't put it up for a vote. But sometimes that's in our favor, because if it even loses by one or two votes, if they don't do this reconsideration thing, it is dead.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to disagree with that. That is not true that it can't be run again in the same session.
It can be run again. It has to be, the rules lay out the procedure where it has to be earmarked for reconsideration.
Right.
If that is not done, and this is days. This is a days period where this has to be done. If that's not done, it's dead. The only way that you can then bring it up for a vote again is to substantially change it from the original.
So you're saying there's a time frame that you have to enact?
Yeah, now there's something that we could push for a change in the rules.
Are you sure that's a written rule, or is that a leadership's rule they just?
That's like House rules, okay, Senate rules, and there's where we could push for a change in the rules. That's not Constitution or anything like that. That's their rules.
All right, now that your points are valid, but that's a little bit of, the topic here was to see what best fight for you to be in to grow your group, because obviously we're not getting anything done unless we gain more raw political power for ourselves. So, but what I would, that issue is covered at the faculty class, so I highly recommend going to that. They'll talk about working on the inside.
What's that class?
It's
Todd, I'll be handing something out.
Okay.
Yeah. And plus, may I add, if you're forcing them to vote on it, and if the bill doesn't get passed, so what? Maybe it'll get passed 3 years down the road. We have to think long term, Plus, we can use it on record against them in the next election cycle.
Exactly. If it's not going to pass, what is delaying it going to help you? You're not even going to know who to get rid of, who you're going to have to get rid of to get that.
That dynamic changes upon where you are in the session.
Okay.
If you're early in the session, there's time for, there would be time to still twist arms and sway people. If you're close to the end of the session,
twist?
Huh?
How do you know whose arms to twist? You might have absolutely no data.
Yeah,
but you might not have the data to populate that list. If you have the data to populate that list, yeah, go ahead. But if your whole list is blank because you don't know where half the people are going to vote, your tool it's still a tool, but its usefulness is now not as great.
You can always ask leadership, because they know who the hold-ups are.
If you can trust them and you can get that, go to your champion and get them to populate your list. Then you can do that way.
One psychological challenge of having to do this intellectually is that sometimes the issue of your own heart doesn't come up as a real winner. Don't worry about it. First of all, there's nothing that says that you can't take 10 or 20% of your time and still fight like Don Quixote against that dragon. Second of all, even if you've decided that you're going to be ruthless with your time and your effort and focus solely on the biggest possible win, there are groups out there, there are people who are going to go from emotion, from gut, and they are going to fight that great fight. All you have to do is assist them in any way you can. So, for instance, the biggest issue of my heart, of course, is abortion. But to me, when I've done this list, the biggest one of all is defeating the unions so that they can't have the power that takes all the wind out of the other side's sails. And the most important issue, ultimately, is Second Amendment, because if they disarm us, we're all done. So even I have to put abortion at a lower level, But that doesn't mean, so I take about 10% of my time, and I try to assist those people who are putting 100% of their time into that, and that has to satisfy me. It's just the way it is.
And I just want to say, it doesn't help you to kid yourself. You know, don't try to be very unbiased when you do this, because it's not that your issue isn't important or anything like that. I'm just telling you, this is just an exercise to tell you what is your best fight for your group to grow and get more power. So that maybe down the line, like maybe you might not be able to influence anything right now, but maybe down the line on your pet issue that you really have passion for. Now you've got enough power to spend around that you can throw some weight at that and do more than you ever could just by sticking with that from the beginning. So that's all it is. It's a tool. You know, it doesn't have. It's not like you must do it this way or you must do it this way. It's a tool. In your tool belt, use it, and you know, that's it.
Great job, Brian.
Very good.